The broadcast is now starting.
Welcome to the webinar. Today we are talking about the QuickBooks integration. Those of you who are new to DTools, we integrate with QuickBooks. We do not integrate with QuickBooks Online, but we do integrate with Pro, Enterprise. We support up to version 2015. So today we're going to go over the basics of creating a QuickBooks estimate from DTools and also purchase orders from DTools. Also, I'm going to show you how to create your items and push them over to QuickBooks. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with pushing your items over to QuickBooks first. So let's get started with that. Basically, you would do that from your catalog. There's more than one way to get there. You can either click on the products button here, or we can go to Start, Catalog, Manage Products. So for those of you who have the QuickBooks integration on your license, you will see a QuickBooks tab here. Also within the project, you'll see a QuickBooks tab. All right, so we're going to go over the basic functions here. This is where you would create your items. This is where you would map your items. There's also a sync function. We've got some filters here. You can see all your products. You can see products in QuickBooks, products that are not yet in QuickBooks. This button allows you to check your inventory. This is a new feature of SI 2015. It allows you to see what you have on hand according to QuickBooks. We'll go over that. And here are the QuickBooks settings. It basically governs how your items will look once you send them from DTools into QuickBooks. All right, so let's get started. What I usually tell customers to do is to filter your items by products not in QuickBooks, so you can, start with those when you're going to create your items. So you can create one item at a time. So if you select it and click on Create, it'll come up here. Or multiple items, you can hold down the Shift key or hold down the Control key and select the items, and then click Create, and then you'll see all of the items that you selected. Now at the top right, you'll see how many items you've selected, and it's going to display the manufacturer, the model, and accounting item number. The accounting item number is a unique identifier that allows our software to see whether or not the item is in QuickBooks or not. So this is essentially the integration right here, the accounting item number. Okay. And the way this displays depends on what you have in your QuickBooks settings. I have manufacturer : model here in my settings. We'll talk about the settings in a bit. All right, so click Next on the screen. On this screen, it allows you to assign your items to your accounts. So basically, these are all the accounts that exist in your current company file that you have open in QuickBooks. And I recommend having QuickBooks open while you're working with the QuickBooks interface. It makes it much faster. The QuickBooks integration works on the client side of the software, by the way. All right, so you can assign the item type in bulk for all 8 items and the tax code. And all of this is according to what you have in QuickBooks. All right, so I'm going to create these as inventory items. I'm going to go ahead and leave the account assignments. Now, I've done a lot of tinkering on my machine here, so it says it already recognizes an item with this particular item name, and do I want to map it? So I'm going to click yes. So sometimes you'll see that the items um, are already in QuickBooks if you've done some changes that may have broken the link between QuickBooks and DTools. But according to this item number, it'll find it again. Okay. So once your items have been completed, you'll see the accounting item name here. And it all depends on what your layout is. When you go to your QuickBooks, go to layouts, I already had it set to accounting. But most of the time it'll be in general if you're just starting off. But let's go back here. So let's open an item to look deeper here within the product. On the accounting tab, there's the item name. And here's where you can assign your preferred vendor. Okay. All right. All right, so let's say that there's an item in your list that you know already exists in QuickBooks, and you want to link that item. Just like the message we received about mapping, that is part of the map functionality where it goes to recognize the accounting item name that's already existing. So let's go ahead and click on the map button. So let's say I want this item to map over to an item that already exists in QuickBooks. Now, when you bring up the map function, it'll automatically categorize by item type. So you've got your inventory, non-inventory, and service. So I'm going to click non-inventory. And let me see here. But for demonstration purposes, I don't see an APC product here that I can map it to. But for demonstration purposes, let's go ahead and choose one of these items. So for instance, I want to map this to this item. I select it and click on map. And as soon as you hit map, this item is automatically assigned the accounting name for that item that already exists in QuickBooks. All right, so let's go back to products in QuickBooks. So if you're keeping track of your inventory, you'll be able to check to see what you have on hand. So for example, this Honeywell item, I want to check and see how many we have. Go ahead and click check inventory. And right on hand, you'll see the quantity, the quantity on a purchase order, and the quantity on a service order. So if you have any pending transactions, you'll be able to see the quantity there as well. Okay, so I've got, the item type is not of type inventory. So this is, I'm glad I saw this message here. So you can only check inventory for items that have the item type inventory. So I picked an item that is not an inventory item. So this was not a good example. You're not going to be able to check. It's always going to say 0. So we need to pick an inventory item. Let's see. I'm not picking anything that has, all right, there's one. All right, so if you choose an item it doesn't have an inventory item type, you're going to see that message. However, for all of your inventory items, you're going to see a check mark, manufacturer model, and of course the on hands that we discussed. All right. And you can do this for multiple products at a time. All right. So let's talk about the QuickBooks settings and how you want your data to look in QuickBooks. Now, there are quite a few settings here that you can adjust. You can change how your items go over in an estimate, your default price type, your purchase order information, you can change that, item format, and you have some options here. So at the very top, the general section, the accounting file path is going to be the company file path that you have open in QuickBooks currently. So let's take a look at that. To verify that you have the right company file open, you can look here, and then in QuickBooks, you can press the F2 key on your keyboard, and you'll see your company information here. All right. So that's your company file path, the country. So if you're located in the UK, for instance, you put UK here, and the default item type. So when you're pushing over items to QuickBooks, your items will default to inventory. And there's an exception for labor. Labor will automatically default to service item type. Okay. All right, so for your estimates, you can choose how to send over your products and your labor. You can decide to have all your products as a single aggregated item. So, for instance, if you have some accessories and things like that, it will export as one item and not a parent item, and then additionally the accessories. Now, those accessories will also go over into QuickBooks as a parent item, so you can decide to make it one product if you want to. The same thing with labor. So your selections, of course, are true and false. Your product item name, you can change the way this displays in QuickBooks. Same thing with labor. You might want to change it to, those of you who are in the UK might want to change it to, LABOUR, or maybe you call it service, or maybe your company has a special name for labor items, and that's how you want it to appear on your estimates. You could do that here. Phase labor item format, so you can decide whether you want your phases to push over as phases with subphases as well. So each phase in DTools will have 4 subphases. So you can decide to send those individual subphases over as line items. They'll all appear as individual line items on the estimate. You can export it as one item. That will just total up everything into one phase, or you can do per phase. So for instance, if you have 4 phases, you'll have 4 line items. If you have set it to phase and subphase, like I said, each phase has 4 subphases, so you'll have 4 phases plus those line items for 4 subphases each. So that'll be quite a bit of line items there. So that's up to you, though. Export labor as items. You can decide to put your labor as line items onto an estimate or not. You can decide whether or not to include owner-furnished equipment. You can change your product adjustment, miscellaneous parts adjustment, and labor adjustments. The description that pushes over to QuickBooks on the line items for those, and same thing with miscellaneous item. So price type section, it just allows you to create and sync your products in a particular price type. So if you have maybe 3 different price lists you're running in DTools, but in QuickBooks you only use this one price type, you want to make sure you're syncing the right price over to QuickBooks. Keep your data in order. Purchase order, this will, the purchase order item order status. So this allows you to change what displays in your project when a purchase order is created. So you'll see this, I'll go over this when we talk about purchase orders in a moment. When you send a purchase order over to QuickBooks, it automatically changes the purchase order status for the items that you ordered. So you can actually change this, your order statuses, to whatever you want. And then, of course, you can change it to display that information when you submit a purchase order. Export owner-furnished equipment to purchase order. So any equipment provided by the customer, you can actually put that on the purchase order if you want to. By default, it's set to false. Item format. So I brought up item format earlier when we were talking about the accounting item name, as you can see in the background here. So I have mine set to, and this is the default setting, manufacturer, first 30 characters, model, first 30 characters. Now, there's a third field that you can use, and here are your selections. So all of these are, of course, available for all 3 format fields. But you have, let's see, manufacturer, model, category, and part number. Okay. And I believe 30 characters are the max, but I'm not really sure about it, but I believe 30 is the max. And options, we have add package name to description in estimates. So when you push over packages in an estimate to QuickBooks, you're going to see individual items, and you might want to keep track of where those items came from. If if they're in a package, you can add that package description name to the description. All right. Price adjustments on separate line items, you could do that as well, and use long description. I have mine set to false, but by default it's true to use a long description. All right. So those are your QuickBooks settings. So let's talk about creating estimates, and we may have time to do a purchase order as well. So let's go to a project, start projects, and let's do this one here. Okay. All right, so here's my project, and let's go ahead and create a purchase order. Go to QuickBooks. Now, the wonderful thing about estimates, you can have more than one estimate per project. But once the item has been added to an estimate, you won't be able to add it to another one. So you can't have one item that's on multiple estimates, but you can have, you know, the items spread out in a project on different estimates. So let's go ahead and let's say we want to, let me filter first. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. Let's see. Let's see. Got a lot of items here. Just trying to find a way to filter so we can get a small section here. All right. All right, so I'm going to filter by system. So I want to submit an estimate just for these items here. All right, so let's go to QuickBooks. And I love the filters in the tools. It's easy to weed out what you don't want to see right away. All right. So anyway, I'm going to select all of these items, hit Create, Selected. All right, so the Create Estimate screen pops up. I'm going to maximize this. Hopefully you can see all of it. And so on this Create Estimate screen, you can create items, you can map items, you can view your products, your labor, and your miscellaneous items. Now, these all show up separately within the Create Estimate window. However, they'll all appear in your estimate in QuickBooks. Okay. All right. So here we our QuickBooks settings are in effect here regarding how the phases are going to show up. So just since I'm just showing finished labor items, we've got the 4 subphases: base, miscellaneous, management, and design. Okay. Take a look at the products again. And so here are all of my products, and you'll see the total quantity. Okay. Right away, you'll see the customer job information filled out. If you don't, it should be in the drop-down. And if it isn't in the drop-down, you create a new customer. If the customer exists already, you then create a new job. Okay. All right. You can also add products. You can add labor and miscellaneous items to this estimate. You can also check inventory for items. I picked another non-inventory item, but anyway, let's go ahead and create it so you can see the next step. So I'm receiving a prompt that there are items that are not in QuickBooks. So let's go ahead and create those items. And this screen is similar to the one we saw in the catalog where you're creating items. But the way it works within a project, you have to create items individually. So each item will line up in this column here, and you're only able to select one at a time to assign, your item type here, your item number, description, cost and price, accounts, and there are some custom fields if you're using custom fields that you can send to QuickBooks. Also part number, if there is one, it'll populate here. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the item. And of course, I've been tinkering, so it sees this item. Let's go ahead and map. So once we've created all of our items, the estimate will be created and you'll get a confirmation message. And it also prompts you to save the project. Now that we've created an estimate number will be assigned. So let's go to our layouts, accounting, and here you'll see your accounting estimate number. Now, I've already added this item to an estimate, like we were saying a few minutes ago. You can have more than one estimate per project. So I've got 2 here so far that I see. The accounting item name, and I've removed something here. And vendor information if you've assigned it. So if you want to clear an estimate, you can definitely do that from here. There are quite a few here. Clear that one. So if you no longer want the estimate, you can delete it, clear it. Well, we call it clear it out. But you can also delete the estimate within QuickBooks too. So, all right. So let me go ahead and reset my filter. But as you can see, I've got my accounting information there. Now, if, for instance, let me go ahead and reset. For instance, I have some items that I'd like to add to an existing estimate. All you have to do is select those items, add to existing estimate for the selected items. Any estimate number that exists in QuickBooks you can type in here, or you can select from the estimates that are already associated with this particular project. So I'm going to add it to the estimate that I just created. But one second, before I do that, let me cancel out of here. Let me just show you what the estimate looks like in QuickBooks once you create it. All right. So let's see. All right. So the item is going to show here. This is the item number, and this is the description. Quantity and the amounts here, and whether or not taxes are included for this item. You'll see your subtotals and your total here. Okay. All right, so let's go back and add to the existing. Number 41, click OK. And it's going to give you a confirmation window showing you all the items that you want to add to the estimate, the total that will be added to the existing estimate, $988.77. And we can click on Add to Estimate. And here's a confirmation message. Definitely want to save it. Now let's look at that estimate again in QuickBooks. All right, so let's scroll down and you'll see all the items that have been added. Now our total is $2,130.34. All right, so pretty cool integration there. Saves you some time, especially if you're a person that doesn't do like the final steps within QuickBooks. You can just send the information there and the next person can take over from there. All right. So let's go ahead and purchase some items. So the items are ready to be ordered. You can create create purchase orders from here. So let's go ahead and purchase this last group of items here. And it works similarly to creating an estimate. Now, so we have our Honeywell item here, quantity 16 with our totals here. Okay. Now we can choose our vendor. I am just going to, for demonstration purposes, choose a random one. I know it's not going to make any sense, but let me see if I can grab one with an address. Now, with your vendors, if you don't have an address listed, it's not going to populate in here. So I chose this one because it has an address, so you can see it automatically populates. Shipping address is pulled from your company information. You can reset that company address here. All right. Same thing in purchase orders as you have in your estimates. You can create and map items from here. You can add products and labor from here. Also delete items. You can check inventory. Check inventory. You can add a vendor from here. This is a handy tool, like if you have you search through your list and you can't find a vendor, you can go ahead and add a new vendor. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. So I'm just going to add in this vendor here, Paces Ferry Road. Okay. So this helps you add information on the fly. It automatically updates the information. I put it the same as the, the company address. All right. So now, one of the wonderful features here is that you can assign items to different jobs here. So for instance, if you had another job that was pending and you wanted to also assign items from that purchase order to that other job, you could do that too. You can clear out some items. You can add a customer or a new job for this purchase order. All right. So let's create purchase order. Purchase order number 9 saved in QuickBooks. All right. We're always going to be prompted to save. All right. So let's look at that purchase order in QuickBooks. There's my Honeywell item, quantity 16, $24, total of $384. And there you are. Okay. All right, so once you've submitted your purchase order, you can see the status of that purchase order. The status of the item, excuse me. We'll talk about purchase order status in a moment. But if you change your layouts to order, you'll see that these items that we just put on that purchase order number 9 has been changed to the ordered status. So this is one of the things also in the QuickBooks settings where you can tell D-Tools what to display when you submit a purchase order for items. So ordered, order number, order date. So let's say we want to check on the status of the purchase order. You can do an order status. Gives you the purchase order number, the item, of course, the quantity, and it will display the received once that item has been marked as received. So this is a handy-dandy tool. The QuickBooks integration here, it saves you a ton of time. It's pretty intuitive. I like the fact that you don't have to you don't have to, manually mark the items as ordered. It does it automatically. Okay. All right, so that is pretty much it for the QuickBooks integration. We talked about the settings. We talked about estimates and purchase orders. We talked about creating items. And if you want more information about this, you can go to our website, the support site, click on Start and Homepage, and click on documentation, and we also have help videos.